Hey, I'm Sug.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Demystified Zone, your third favorite podcast about North Korea.
Sorry if anyone gets sick from me. I apologize, but welcome to 2023.
That's always a lame apology. Sorry if you get sick from me. Why are
Sorry
you here
if you get
then?
hurt by what I'm about to say.
I'm going to wave this gun around. I'm sorry if you get shot. That's what you're saying to me right now.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back, Dan.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's good to see you in your somewhat distressed state. Our video, though, no one watches us on video. If you happen to see us on video, we're a little further apart today.
Yeah, I got a little something.
You remember not just 2 years ago where we had the 6 foot rule?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
The 6 foot rule?
I like that.
Just because you like space from other human beings in general,
exactly.
like forcing people. You know, I'm a close talker, so I didn't like that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I was like, yo, why would we be 6 feet? What's this arbitrary number 6 feet?
I
Germs
noticed
can't fly further than 6 feet?
One of my close friends stayed with us this weekend, and we were talking across our little kitchen island, and he was like up against it, and I had to take a step back. I love this guy to death. How wide is your island?
My wedding. How wide is your island?
It's about like a couple feet.
Okay, so narrower island.
It's a narrow. Yeah.
Was he leaning over? Was his elbows on the island?
He was definitely touching it.
Okay.
You know, he was up against it, and I needed to take a step back.
I have definitely had friends who are very direct with me, put their hand out like this and keep me away because I am a close talker.
You are? I never noticed that about you.
I'm, that's my love language is touch. So, I like to be close. Speaking of biowarfare. You like that
Great
transition?
Segue. You're getting so good at this.
And warfare in general.
Yeah.
Or hostile takeovers.
Yes.
In our last episode, we did if you guys didn't listen, go back and check out our awesome 2022 season. We did this top 10 list, and we did a bunch of facts. And then I actually trivia quizzed Dan at the end, which
terrible.
He did terrible. And by the way, if you did fill that out, we will look at that.
Yeah.
And
a couple people wrote in and they said, I didn't beat Dan. It
really?
was so hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Can I get a t-shirt?
You did terrible. At least if you wrote in, you sent him a t-shirt. You sent them something? Okay,
exactly.
good. If you just wrote in, that's how you beat Dan. You just write in and you can talk smack to Dan and we'll send you something.
Send you stuff.
But there was a trivia question I gave to Dan. Let's see if you remember the answer, even though I gave you the answer last time. It was several weeks ago. But do you remember how many missiles were launched from North Korea in 2022? What was the number?
Yeah.
As we all know, North Korea loves to launch its missiles.
I
and
think
test
it was
those
88.
Missiles. Ding, ding, ding.
Yes!
Ding. All right. Listeners, Dan has a good memory after I give him the answer.
Yeah, and after editing the podcast myself.
Having it in your ear all the time. Yeah. 88 missiles. Y'all, 88 missiles were launched last year. And let's just be reminded what that means. They're not in a conflict with anyone. Well, they're always in conflict, I guess, but a Cold War conflict, really. But this is a country who's just actively launching missiles as a show of, it's the guerrillas, beating its chest.
It is. It really is.
And it does it a lot. I mean, this guerrilla, North Korea guerrilla, does it a lot. And 88 is, I think it's a record now. No, I think I could be wrong about that.
They are launching at the highest rate.
Highest rate ever. Yes.
For sure.
Which let me to the question as we start this new year. Okay. We're starting new, fresh with North Korea. And I just feel like we got to always do this assessment. And in my mind, the assessment was, is North Korea a military threat or how much of a military threat is North Korea?
Yeah.
Well, okay, before we get into it, Dan, what is your gut feeling? How if we're going the DEFCON scale, and is it lower? It's worse, right? Lower is worse, right?
DEFCON 1 is the
one
worst.
is like the worst.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 is the best.
5 is like safe.
Yeah.
And then Amber Alert's like 3 or something like that, right?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. If you got, what would you say we're at with North Korea?
With North Korea? So it just depends on where you are in the world. If you're in Seoul,
Okay.
right? DEFCON 1.
Really? Okay.
Well, maybe 2. Right?
Okay.
Like
What about here? Okay, you're in Chicago.
Chicago,
What are you feeling?
I'm feeling 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay.
Yeah.
But still not 5. You don't feel safe.
yeah.
You feeling like there's a potential threat at any moment. It could be a lower percentage, maybe.
Yeah.
I want to look at what is Mike. What is DEFCON 3? What does that mean? Like, can you look up the DEFCON scale and just let me know it?
Yeah, I think DEFCON 5 is like just peace or whatever. Funny enough, as he looks that up, there's this one jerk who used to be in my family who would come to our family gatherings and start arguing with people. He would start it.
Is he going to know who he is when you're talking about it?
I don't think he's listening at all. Anyway, at one point, he started this fight, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are getting on my nerves. It's like DEFCON 5 in here." I'm like,
"Oh man,
I didn't want to get him started again, so I was like, "Bite your tongue, Dan. It's actually DEFCON 1."
Oh man, that's funny.
Anyway,
you didn't laugh at him.
I so wanted to correct him, but he was so insufferable that like he would start another thing.
DEFCON 5.
Okay,
That's really funny. You should anyway.
It's like DEFCON 5 in here.
All right, pull up that. Click on that DEFCON 3.
Least severe.
Can you click on that DEFCON 3 one, 4.2 right there? Yeah, the top one. I just want to read what it says. Oh, it doesn't give like a definition what 3 is. Okay, 9/11 is DEFCON 3.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Okay, that's pretty serious. After the 9/11, they went to DEFCON 3. So 3 is pretty high.
And it stands for defense condition, right?
Defense condition. Defense readiness condition. Interesting. Okay, well now we know.
Right.
Listeners, don't annoy Dan and threaten DEFCON. It goes down.
It goes
in
down,
number,
yeah.
not up. Well, I thought it went up too.
Yeah, it sounds right though,
Yeah,
right?
we're at DEFCON 5.
To the uneducated.
I actually thought it went to like 7. Shows you how much I know. All right, North Korea, you think we're at a 3 or 3? Would you change your answer now? 3 is 9/11.
Oh yeah. Okay, so when I don't think North Korea, and we can get into this, even though they have all these weapons and things like that, I don't think anyone in their right mind would want to start a nuclear war. There's just no good ending for anyone. So, yeah, I think we're 4 or 5 with North Korea, even that. But as far as like who they could actually do immediate damage to,
Sure. Japan, South Korea.
South Korea for sure.
2 countries they hate the most, as we know from their World Cup standings against North Korea. The shutoutedness of North Korea against Japan and South Korea demonstrates how much North Korea does not like those 2 countries.
Yeah.
It's interesting because so it says DEFCON 1. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia, guys. So DEFCON 1, signaling outbreak of nuclear warfare. So 1 is like, it's game over, man, if we hit 1. Yeah. So instances of DEFCON 2 were like Cuban Missile Crisis, right. Persian Gulf War. Huh.
Really?
I mean, we went to World War, so that was pretty serious too, I guess. So that gives us some context here. Here's another little factor that just made me think, because we're in the middle of there's wars going on in this world. Mm-hmm. The Ukraine Russia war right now.
Yeah.
Recently there was like a missile attack by Russia. Prayers and thoughts out to Ukrainians.
Yeah.
They launched an estimated 120 missiles towards Ukraine.
Okay.
I don't know how much of those were like ICBM. I mean, I'm certainly not using ICBMs because it's right next door. Mm-hmm. But I mean, 120 missiles in one actual offensive war attack, and we're talking about 88, of course, a year of no one's provoking them at all. Like that is an a lot of missiles coming out of North Korea for just test purposes, supposedly.
Yeah. And I think they would say, no, everyone's provoking us all the time.
Yeah. By them existing, they're being provoked.
It's like every crazy person, right? Every like run-of-the-mill crazy that you see on the street, they're always the victim.
Hold on. You can't just say crazy person. Come on, let's be. This is a mental health crisis.
Sure,
I think it's beyond crazy. It's not just that. That's too general. It's more like hubris.
Sure.
Anyone with people with pride, like, or narcissists maybe, or even sociopaths, right? And I guess that's a thing too. But I hear you. It's the dude. Who do we categorize? Who's this person in our lives? Or in our history?
Do you want us
to
name names?
Let's name some names. Is it this guy? Is this guest? Unnamed guest? I'm just trying to get a name from this unnamed guest that went to DEFCON 5.
Yeah, I would. My family, in retrospect, we really think he had some sort of narcissistic personality disorder.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hurt people.
Yeah, and he always said he was the victim, even though he would like come in to these. It was terrible for a while at our family events. He'd just find us and start arguing. He was not invited.
Yeah.
Kids were around crying.
Yeah.
And he would say,
was it always like,
because you are trying to do this to me? Really? It's crazy.
It sounds like he has some sort of developmental issue there, maybe, because that's not normal. You know what I mean? Like, to have someone to be that toxic all the time, there's something going on.
Definitely.
You know? Okay. And that's
if you're listening, man, I forgive you. I love you. I don't care anymore.
Sorry, the point is not this mystery man. The point is that this mystery man represents North Korea as a state.
Yeah.
Not the people. Let's be clear. It's probably not the people. It's the regime.
Sure.
It's the state that has this thing where they walk in and they're doing that. They're starting the fire immediately. It's your fault.
It's
I can
immediately
bomb you.
DEFCON 5. I mean, 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
But isn't that, every time I think about that, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
You know, that feeling you get when that person does walk in the room, you're like, oh, your heart rate, your blood pressure goes up and you're just like, oh boy, you're bracing yourself. That's like a country, a leadership for a country. Can you manage being in the UN Council and the North Korea guys walk in and we're going to have a discussion with them? That's it right there. That's Thanksgiving dinner.
I wonder if they use that. It's like DEFCON 5 in the UN.
You guys blame us for everything. You say we torture people, we starve. You blame me for everything. That guy tortured himself. Oh my gosh, sorry.
Yes.
I apologize, listeners, for
we're
coming out.
Pain, yeah.
So I did some. Today we're gonna talk about. All right, what are North Korea's military capability? What is the real perceived threat here? And I'm not even trying to frame North Korea as like. Let me back up here. The purpose of this conversation is just like a check-in to see, okay, what can they do?
Yeah.
What have they been doing? What are they focusing on?
Right.
And in terms of military might, is this, should we be afraid? Obviously, South Koreans should always be afraid. Japanese probably should be always afraid. But, as Americans in the last 5 years, they've developed an ICBM that can reach New York, apparently.
Yeah.
Those are all just kind of like, I think those are more media tags to like get headlines going, because the likelihood of something like that happening is very, very slim. Like you mentioned before, going nuclear all across the board. But so I thought it'd be kind of interesting, just because I don't know. Again, everything I do here is for my own purposes, is for myself. I'm so selfish that I'd like to understand better what is North Korea's capabilities right now.
Yeah.
So, you know what, Mike? If I forgot to send you these, I'm gonna send some links. We're gonna look at. So there's this. We're so journalistically. I have so much journalistic integrity here, right? Because I just look on the web for all my information. Dan's like shaking his head. He was a journalist. I was not. So yeah, I pulled up this website. You guys can check it out. It's at globalfirepower.com. Just now that I read it out loud, I'm realizing, it's an interesting website. You know what though? It's got some good data in there at least.
It is really interesting.
So what this website does, like, ranks I think 145 nations in the world who have some kind of military might, and it kind of ranks their firepower might. Like, for example, the top 3 are United States, Russia, and China in that order. Mm-hmm. If you go down to the 30s, Mike, and pull up North Korea. So North Korea is ranked right now 34, right between South Africa and Norway. Could you click and open that one up, Mike? And so the stat I like looking at, so scroll down and go to the overview. All right, so this is like a huge map chart of the different categories they measure at this site.
Right.
So it goes from like population to active military personnel to like number of tanks, even number of ships. What are corvettes?
It's a ship.
Okay, I was about to say. I'm so stupid. I was like, cars? Like the car? What a dummy. All right. And they also measure like oil production even, and like financial or natural resources, land, transportation, waterways, etc. So they kind of like take all these data points into account, and then they rank them based on all these things. Again, I don't know what the algorithm is for world. This is just like kind of numbers out there that are helpful. Mm-hmm. So look at North Korea. What stands out to you?
Well,
they got a lot of green. So if they're in green, that means I think they're in the top 20 out of the 145 countries in that department.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so clearly
tanks. They're number 2 in tanks.
In the world, yeah.
In the world.
In tanks. Okay, so they are last, like one of the poorest countries in the world.
Yes.
I think that cannot be understated, right? Like that all of these statistics where they're amongst the top, like artillery holders in the world, tanks, ships.
I think the most eye-popping one is active personnel. So they're actually number 4.
But they're number 1 in per capita active personnel.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, no matter how many missiles and cyber warfare, you got more people fighting that battle.
Right. You could, throw bodies. Yeah. So it's very interesting, right? It's very telling where this country's priorities are. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And okay, yeah. And on that note, so there was in this article, we'll put it in the notes here. This is an article from the Council on Foreign Relations about North Korea's military capabilities. North Korea spends 25% of its GDP on its defense budget.
Yeah.
25%. That doesn't sound high, maybe because we think, we spend like trillions on our or billions. Right. But by comparison, just so you know, obviously our GDP is like way higher than North Korea's. The U.S., by comparison, in 2022, spent 3.3% compared to your GDP, obviously. Wow. So this is like money on defense compared to a country's GDP. Yeah. Right. North Korea is spending 25%.
Yeah, while its people starve.
Yes,
yeah,
and that's
crazy.
That's like the big, oh my gosh, like the economy is not doing that well, but this is their priority. Yeah. Clearly, the numbers are showing.
I'm sure they would spend a lot more if they could get away with it, too.
And that's the thing. I guess that's the, what do they call it? The strategic defense mechanism. I don't know, I'm making up words now. Against North Korea is like the sanctions and like the ignoring policy and like letting them slowly cripple themselves or something like that. I forget what it's called. Was it
strategic patience? Is
something like that? Yeah. Where that's Obama been our policy of like
some administration
sanction them, economically cripple them so they can't keep advancing.
Right.
But honestly, if you're spending 25%, you're gonna go somewhere. If I spend 25% of my money on weapons and armaments, I'm going to have a good stockpile of things, no matter how much money I'm producing. And then actually, per our episodes last year or last season, they're getting money from the black market a lot too now. So we don't even know if that GDP number is accurate.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're at this point. Like, Crossing Borders, we celebrated our 20th anniversary on January 1st this year, and you're yeah.
Congratulations!
Thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you.
I'm applauding.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
everyone.
Congrats! You made it.
Yeah, 20 years. So 20 years ago, think about it, right? If you would have said that we're at this point now where North Korea has nukes, it would have been inconceivable 20 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it is sort of an accepted reality now that they do have some sort of nuclear. We don't know exactly what they can do, but they're always getting better. So we got to assume that eventually they will be able to hit New York with a nuclear warhead.
Well, okay, so they do have nuclear capability now, according to reports. And,
right. Sure.
So I'm just going to rattle off this. They have enough fissile material for more than 100 nuclear weapons.
Sure.
And in 2017, they tested their last nuke, and obviously we couldn't do an exact measure, but based on like seismographic activity and like
because they did it underground.
Yeah, and they did it underground. Experts estimate that was
a hydrogen bomb
bigger than the Hiroshima hydrogen bomb that we dropped in
right.
World War
But
II.
what I'm saying is they might have the materials, they might have the missiles, but they have to fit the materials onto a warhead on a missile.
Well, that's still unknown.
Art form. Right,
yeah,
right.
Which is unknown if they can do that or not.
Sure.
They claim they can.
Right.
A lot of experts.
Don't you assume that eventually they'll get there, right? I mean, I just
and
that.
Honestly, even okay, this is going to seem very dark, but I'm just going into this potential reality, and I don't know if this is a military thing or not. It's like, what's to keep them from flying 100 planes? I mean, they're pretty high on the plane list too over there. With 100 planes with 100 nukes, and we're going to shoot down all 100 at the same time if they're going different. I don't know. Is that possible? I don't know. Like, maybe not.
No.
But for South Korea and Japan, yes, it is possible. For sure.
Well, okay, so it's the old like Cold War thought of deterrence, right?
Yes.
You start it, and then the world will get destroyed, but everyone, including you, will not enjoy the victory of, if you press that button, then you will start a cascade of events that will basically destroy yourself and the world. So does anyone want that? No. I don't. That's
the scary part. Okay. Now we're talking about the mentally unstable person that's come in the room that is saying DEFCON 5. Like, we don't know what they're capable of doing. Right? I think that's the real fear for me. Is like, I don't know what this person is capable of doing. I don't.
Yeah.
They don't play by the same rules as the rest of the world. So we don't know. And it's also we can always assume that in general they're smart enough to not want that. But it's like when people are always when someone's always claiming to nuke other people and saying, what was it? Kim Yo-jong said, you'll see.
Yeah.
When they were saying like, you don't have any military nuclear threats, like, you'll see. That concerns me when people say when someone says something like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't. Okay, one thing a narcissist loves is themselves.
Like we're psychoanalyzing North Korea as like a human.
Yeah, right. Let's just say they are like a narcissistic personality disorder person, right?
Yes.
They have the most self-preservation, which is why they think they have to act out. So
yes.
Anyway, who knows? The dangerous thing about having these missiles around, right? Like at the end of the Cold War, we started like destroying, both Russia and the U.S. started destroying our payloads because it's just dangerous to have these things around, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So we started doing that. But then because we did that because we don't know what could happen, who in the future will have their hand on that button.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Like things can happen, right? Like who could have predicted the past 5 years, right? Things happen and this world is chaotic. And if these things are, I mean, the U.S. actually used them. So
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. Let me go back to something you said before about like crossing borders 20 years ago, working in North Korea, like nukes weren't even a thing on the table yet. They were just kind of a discussion behind closed doors, whether they could do it or not.
we were just like, yeah, right.
You know, yeah. And I actually remember hearing I don't remember what I heard it on, but I listened to basically an article of an expert from I think it was the CIA, and I think this was like 10 years ago, I would say. It was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was during Obama's administration. Sorry, that's not political commentary, but they were talking about how this expert was saying if we continue to ignore North Korea, they will have nukes.
Definitely.
Like, it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are in 2023. We know they have nukes.
Right.
Over 100 warheads capable of nukes. Yes, maybe not launchable, especially via ICBM, but they have them. And that's just what happened from 20 years ago. Like they went from nothing to nukes and having nukes. Which to me is like, man, I just wonder. It makes me wonder what are the implications if we did something different back then or not? You know, or if they would have made a difference anyway.
We tried to throw everything at them, right? This different administration, like Bush, he tried to get consensus from Russia, Japan, South Korea, China, U.S., 6-party talks.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work.
Yeah.
And then Obama did strategic patience. That didn't work. Trump tried to pressure them. That didn't work. So I don't know. I mean, we did try a lot of different approaches, which didn't work. I don't know.
We didn't try the one, the forced hand approach, which I'm not saying we should have. I'm just saying with a country like North Korea, that might be the only way to stop. I mean, there were so many reports. Kim Jong-il did this, the former leader, and Kim Jong-un is doing this, where they demonstrated, and you can look this up on the web, they demonstrated by like saying, oh, we dismantled this nuclear facility. Yeah. And it was completely fake. They just blew up this like fake empty facility that was not their nuke facility, but they made it look like it was. Right? Which tells you, one, they're determined, and two, they're sophisticated too. Like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But okay, and then this makes me go back and forth. Okay. It's like part of my fear of I'm just going to, for lack of better terminology, I'm going to call it the crazy person fear. Like, this is a crazy person. We don't know what they're capable of. What's going to happen? Like, they could push the button at any time.
Right.
This logic now goes against that of like, no, they're very sophisticated. They're not like just random, you know, they do make and say a lot of things, but I think it's very calculated in why they say those things. They are very odd culturally, for sure, you know, but they're super intelligent, you know, like I think one of the greatest powers is the rest of the world kind of underestimates them, you know, and 20 years nuclear program, like that's crazy. Like with nothing, no internet even basically, you know, like they did this. So, well, that kind of goes against my fear of like, oh, well, you're right. They do value their own existence and they know what's going to happen. They're not dumb. They know what's going to happen if they hit that button and they send something to South Korea, like the Allies are going to come in and wipe them out. Or at least contain them. Yeah. So,
well, here's the scenario now, right? If they truly do have a nuclear weapon, like take for instance Russia and Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
We're afraid to escalate that fight with Russia because of the nuclear threat.
Yeah.
So what happens now, right? Like if North Korea decides to invade South Korea, but North Korea is nuclear now.
Yeah.
Right? How involved do we want to get? Because a conflict between two nuclear states could be pretty bad.
Yeah.
So,
well, the good news there is that South Korea's military power is like top 10 in the world.
Yeah,
so
and
they
the
they
US
could fend for themselves against North Korea.
And the
supposedly.
US has their back nuclearly.
Yeah,
speaking.
supposedly, yeah. And Japan probably would back them too,
Yeah.
because Japan's part of that allyship as well, and Japan's also in the top 10, I believe.
They are.
So yes, if we're gonna go pound for pound here, you know,
and
the U.S. may not have to be involved, and we're more of the, you know, and supposedly North Korea is Russia backed in terms of its own, or China backed, you know, which are the number 2 and 3.
Yeah,
you know, this is a crazy.
It's
this is
World
like
War III.
This is like the Clash of the Titans here, you know. And
it's DEFCON 5.
Watch out, everyone. Oh my gosh, if this guy ever listens, he's gonna really be upset with you. I wouldn't want to have that conversation with him.
He doesn't know where I live anymore.
Oh, okay. So let's just just keep things moving here.
Yeah.
Here's some positives along with that, right? Yes, we have allies who are very well on their own militarily.
Yeah.
You know, and the other positive, like, I think in general, most countries, even the ones that are, you know, the Russias, the Chinas, that's not in their interest.
No.
To get into that conflict.
For sure.
The other, specifically about North Korea, is a lot of reports about their military and their, you know, tanks number 2, artillery 2, ships 3. Like, these are the top rankings. But they're saying a lot of that are like stuff from the 1950s. Like, they're aged equipment, and they don't have the resources right now to make new stuff because they've been sanctioned for so long and they're hurting economically. Which is the other positive, is like, again, not that I wish economic strain on that country, which has been and its people, but it struggles economically partly because they spend 25% of its budget on defense, right? And that they could not sustain a war or a conflict because this part of that is just outlasting, right?
For sure. Yeah, that is the one. It's like, it's both heartbreaking, the economic hardship, but it's comforting as well, right? It's two things, because what would North Korea do with a huge GDP? Who knows, man? That's scary.
Yeah. If it had South Korea's GDP and its same mindset, that is a real, that's frightening, you know?
It's frightening. But sad for the people.
Yeah. Super sad.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And that's kind of always where we land on in this podcast. It's like the real victims here are its own people.
Right.
And not to end on a sad note, there are two things. Okay, just to explain, and this came from a couple like ex-CIA people that were in studying North Korea and doing that, you know, and something that keeps coming up is like the two things why North Korea. So if you're like me, listener, you were wondering, like, why do they spend 25%? Why do they have this big chip on their shoulder to be this military might and this like seemingly like kind of like a Napoleon complex, if I can simplify it that way. And there's two things, and we're gonna do a little Korean culture learning here, right? There's two words in Korean that I don't know that well myself. It's juche and songun. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Juche. Do you know what those are? Give us the explanation here.
Juche is their self-reliance philosophy that Kim Il-sung supposedly wrote.
Yeah.
Now that I learn more about him, I doubt he wrote it. Self-reliance, especially militarily.
Yes.
And then Songun, I believe, is military first philosophy.
Yes.
Their philosophy of governing is the military always comes first.
So these are the two like founding, like if we're talking about Constitution founding fathers of the United States, the principles of freedom, you know, rights for people, all that, like this is theirs. Their main two. It's self-sufficiency. I don't need anybody, and military first.
Yeah.
This like is why
freedom and liberty here in the U.S. Juche and Songun.
Yeah, it's not freedom and liberty. This is freedom and weapons. Freedom and bicep and guns.
And guns,
Yeah. So, listener, if that's what you're, you know, that was kind of my, like, why North Korea? Why are you like this?
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's baked into everything that they do. Like that is what they live and die on, is those two. I mean, more than that, but
Yeah.
you know, those are two strong pillars in their framework.
So, like, if you look at their pop culture and look at Kim Jong-un, you know, why is he always wearing these military things? Why is he taking his daughter to her first public appearance is a nuclear launch? It's because that is the most important thing in the country.
Yes.
And they sort of, formulate their society around that.
Yeah. Which is, it's good for talk, but
it's crazy.
It is. And okay, the final thing we're going to leave on is this fun video I found. Mike, can you pull up that video on, okay, so for those who are listening, if you just Google North Korean soldiers perform extreme martial arts show.
Yes.
All right, insert sound effect there. Go ahead and let that run. This is just something that they probably do. I think they do this every year. So what we're watching here is just like these topless young North Korean soldiers that look very intimidating. If I'm being honest, I'm scared. And they're doing these crazy feats of strength in front of this like Kim Jong-un and like his posse.
Yeah.
This is like, look at this guy's got machetes on his chest.
Machetes on his chest, a huge stone on top of those machetes.
This was crazy. Look at this one. Two dudes with a rebar between their necks, and they're bending it with their necks.
Yeah.
By walking towards each other.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is this is their talent show, basically. This is their North Korea's Got Talent right here.
Now this guy is breaking glass.
He's going to lie in it.
Lay in it.
Oh, shirtless, of course. He's shirtless laying in broken glass. He just did the Die Hard. But he's going to one up. He's got a concrete block on his chest. I love how they cover his face at least.
Safety.
For safety, they cover his face. All right, but I just want to show you this one clip where it's coming up soon. Oh. This is the one that always makes me laugh the most and terrifies me the most. It's coming up.
That was a little parkour there.
A little parkour, knife throwing.
Yeah.
At a guy who's dodging the knives.
Oh my gosh.
Catching the knives. That's not it. It's still coming.
That's not it?
It's not it. The knife throwing was not it. Okay, Taekwondo, advanced Taekwondo, as you all know, Korea's most prideful form of martial arts form.
Yeah.
Oh, KJU likes that kick. He's laughing. More Taekwondo demonstrations.
My kids could do this.
Look at that drop kick. Can you imagine getting hit by that drop kick? That's the one right there. Okay, that was it right there. Okay, listener. This man ran with his face straight through these concrete blocks.
Full
just
sprint.
Face.
Just his face through concrete blocks. Oh my gosh.
And right now another man is taking like 2x4s to the face and he's just like absorbing all this stuff. These guys have to have their brains can't be
CTE for sure.
Yes. But that was the most intimidating thing when I was watching this. When the man ran full speed with his face through the concrete blocks.
Yeah. He should be signed by the NFL.
So earlier when I was getting into this of like, you know what, I started having these things. You know what we need to do? Maybe we just need to have this like world council. We need to do it, old Troy style. All right, we need to get our Greek style. We need to get our best warriors and just let them. Winner takes all. But after seeing this, I'm a little. You know what? I know our armed forces. God bless our armed force men and the people in the special services. Those guys are hardcore. And I've met some of them. They are another level of fitness, brain power, intelligence. But this. I'm not saying the ARP guys couldn't do that. I'm sure our guys could run their face through concrete bricks. But there's just something. I don't know. Oh my gosh!
Thanks for showing it again, Mike.
We're watching it on repeat right now.
Oh my gosh! I'm sure our guys could do this, but would they do this?
You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather stick to the strategic defense of like sanctions and things like that. I don't know if I want to get into see this kind of person on the other side of a war.
Yeah.
And I know this is for show. Like they're showing off in front of everyone, but they like look at the intensity of these soldiers' faces. Like I some of me feels like it's not just show. They actually do train like this, or like they are this intense when they train.
Right. So there are these guys.
Yes.
But then remember we talked about that guy who ran through the DMZ
Yes.
and was malnourished. He had worms.
And got shot about seven. Was it 7 times? Yeah.
A bunch of times and survived to tell about. I mean, who knows what we're dealing, right? Per capita, North Korea has the highest manpower in their military, but how healthy, how well fed, how well equipped are they? These are all questions that we don't know yet.
All we do know is we don't want to get into a hand-to-hand combat with
these 7 guys.
With these guys, this group versus I don't want anyone to ever have to face those guys, ever.
No, never.
Hey listeners, if you're enjoying the podcast or becoming more interested in North Korea, or maybe you're just feeling generous right now, please leave us a review and share it with your people. It'll help us to continue to grow this show and spread awareness about North Korean refugees and all that is going on over there. And it'll also help prove to my Amma that my career choices were right.